Hello and welcome to the Go Home Show podcast, brought to you by SPORF. I just spat everywhere, your one-stop shop for all things professional wrestling, with weekly chats with WWE superstars, all the news you might have missed from the previous 7 days, and a look back at some of the most infamous moments in history. Today we are a three-man band, Shotgun being Heath Slater. Elliot Ames is on holiday, which he's not on holiday probably, he just watches copious amounts of BoJack Horseman. Joining me is Drew McIntyre, Chris Anderson.
Hello, mate. How we doing?
And the Mahal to my Jinder, Crusher. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah, I think if we were the three-man band, we'd actually be more successful at the time than the original group.
But so you do have to say at the time, seeing you have two former WWE champions and the hottest free agent in sports entertainment history.
Gents, another bloody packed week of bloody professional wrestling. And we are on the way to Clash of Champions. So we're on the train. And we've had some matches shored up this week, haven't we, Michael? The women's matches, the title matches. Where do you want to look at first?
Yeah, so we've got 9 confirmed matches so far. On the pre-show, it's Asuka against Zelina Vega for the Raw Women's title. Then we've got Drew versus Randy, Roman Reigns against Jey Uso, Bayley against Nikki Cross, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler against the Riot Squad, Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura against Lucha House Party, Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title, Street Profits against Andrade and Angel Garza, and Bobby Lashley against Apollo Crews. Chris, coming to you, which match are you most excited for out of them?
So the one for me that stands out, because it's a bit of a indie wrestling hipster kind of dream match, is the Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, Sami Zayn ladder match. I think as much as anything, it's good to see Sami Zayn actually wrestling again, because before he went away with the outbreak, he obviously was struggling with his shoulder injuries. He won the title off of Daniel Bryan, essentially just getting beaten up for 10 minutes, hitting a big boot and pinning 1, 2, 3. But obviously back on Smackdown last week, we actually saw him work a real match, like a full match. So he's obviously back working properly. Put him in a ladder match against arguably the best wrestler in the world in AJ Styles, and Jeff Hardy, who I think he's 43 now, and he's still a complete lunatic. I'm very, very excited for this match. And
what about you, Will? What are you most looking forward to?
I'm really excited for that Reigns Jey Uso match, just because one, it came out of the blue, and two, just because of I saw him on the bump in the week with it was Jey Uso and Paul Heyman, and just obviously Reigns is selling it as his tribe and his island, and obviously they are cousins, and he's shocked to be in the title match. So it's obvious to say it's going to be a Reigns title win, but just which way we're going to be coming out of that after the pay-per-view.
New look Roman Reigns too. Like he said that he's going to be...
Teeth.
Well, because he's got the new teeth, but he's going to have new entrance music, and he'll be wrestling without a vest as well.
Good God.
It's going to
be, is that an exclusive, Mick?
No, Chris, you mentioned that to me the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw it. I think he may have said it on the bump or a show similar like that. He revealed that it's a full repackage.
But yeah, I'm most looking forward to seeing how Zelina Vega fares. Obviously, I know we were speaking before, and you mentioned how it's a bit of a swerve from the Bayley Sasha stuff and going away from that. Obviously, this is Zelina's first title shot. Obviously, being a manager previously in WWE, but when she was working on the Indies, she was very talented. As via Trinidad. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how her and Asuka go down. It's a shame it's on the pre-show, but like Chris said to me the other day, something's got on the pre-show. It's just a shame it's got to be that match.
And we can all watch it on the pre-show, even if you've not got a network subscription. So let's find the positives in that one. Chris, I'll come to you now. Some sad news this week. A fantastic tag team, and we've sadly lost Road Warrior Animal.
I think the impact that the Road Warriors or Legion of Doom had on tag team wrestling cannot be even possibly understated. I think when you look back at when you have those memories of 80s and 90s, especially American professional wrestling, where it is so over the top and it is so bold and so brash, to have those two just absolutely massive dudes, face painted up, the big shoulder pads on, like they were legitimate icons in American professional wrestling. They were so good as a tag team. Like they have probably as strong a claim as anyone to being called the best tag team in the world, just for what they did for tag team wrestling. Not even in ability-wise, and they were incredibly athletic and incredibly good wrestlers, but they just brought such a spotlight into tag team wrestling and across the world as well. Because I always think of them as American professional wrestlers because they were so American, if that makes sense. In that, like I said, big shoulder pads, face paint. But these guys they were stalwarts in Japan for years and years, and they wrestled all over the world. Everything that Hawk and Animal did for tag team wrestling should be celebrated and appreciated, because it's very possible we will never see their likes again.
Love that, Chris. Yeah, I think sentiments that you share as well, Mick.
Yeah, very, very sad news. I think it was Tuesday the news broke. 60 as well, so like a very, very young age. Yeah, it's very sad news.
Right, let's move things on. Back to Monday Night Raw this week, and Retribution have been revealed. I've been put down to cover this one. Now, I'm usually quite positive, and I do like to look on the brighter side of life, but I still will. But I just don't know where we're going with this Retribution angle. It just feels, when I was watching the promos, that it just feels a little bit lost at the moment. I need some sort of injection, whether that's like a leader revealed or some sort of, because they've come in and made, like, they broke the ring, but I don't feel they've done a real statement piece yet of, like, you know, put X person on the shelf, or I don't, and the promos around they're trying to retrain I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a BTEC NWO, but
the names, I'm not the biggest fan of the names, if I'm honest.
They're very cartoony, aren't they? Yeah,
because obviously Dio Madden is now Mace, Dominic Djokovic is now T-Bone, and Shane Thorne's now Slapjack.
Called what?
Slapjack.
Do you think they're going for like Suicide Squad vibes?
Potentially, yeah. But that's actually a good point. So yesterday, this is like really throwing out. This is like Chris's Finn Balor Undisputed Era on steroids.
Yeah.
John Cena was confirmed to be in a Suicide Squad spin-off movie.
Wow.
It's all part of a huge plan. John Cena come back is leader of Retribution.
You can see it's a real attempt to tap into kind of the comic book superhero, supervillain idea. I think the most blatant example of that is Dijakovic or T-Bar with his, essentially it's a Bane mask at the end of the day. I think they're really trying to hark on to these are, again, it's going back to big, brash, over the top. It does feel very disjointed with the rest of the product, but let's see what happens. I mean, let's throw it back. Becky Lynch turned heel for a week. There was such a big pushback against it that they flipped on it, made her this kind of stone cold in-betweener, and 6 months later, the man was the biggest thing in wrestling. So there is evidence of learning from mistakes and pivoting. There is also a lot of evidence where that hasn't happened, but let's wait and see.
Yeah. Right, let's move things on to NXT. Last night, Mick, I'll come to you. Lots of developments, and we've got some new matches on the way.
So obviously we had the massive Battle Royale. There was a lot of new faces in there, which were the majority part of the early of the match, with a lot of the eliminations from Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, I believe it was. But then the ultimate winner was a Miss Candice LeRae. So really looking forward to seeing her against Io Shirai, NXT TakeOver on October 4th. That should be a really good match. And then obviously Johnny Gargano has a title match next week, I think it is. So he said he's going to become the power couple of wrestling when he gets a title, and then Candice gets a title next week.
Like that. Chris, we've got Finn Balor's got a new number one contender.
He does, and I am a big, big fan of this booking. I think Kyle O'Reilly is the right person to put there, because I think they want to keep Finn Balor very strong. So I think Finn Balor is going over regardless. However, Kyle O'Reilly, up until this point, has been a tag team wrestler, but he's also been kind of one of 4 within Undisputed Era. Whereas now we've seen that he is a very, very popular wrestler. He's very, very good at the comedy stuff, but he's also very good at that kind of Japanese strong style, very realistic style of fighting, which is very popular at the moment. So he was always going to be the next breakout star from that. So I think just pushing him to the main event without putting the title on him actually is a really, really good way to build him up as a singles competitor. And then we can leave the rest of the Undisputed Era to do their thing. I still have this feeling that bad news is coming. I don't think Finn Balor is going to be the next leader, but I think they will shake it up. It wouldn't shock me if Kyle O'Reilly gets kicked out in some way. Bad
news is in Bad News Barrett.
Oh, that I would be very up for that. Very, very up for that. I think it's too soon with him just coming back, but that would be dead good, wouldn't it?
So just to interject here as well about NXT, it was quite a jam-packed episode, really. So Fandango pitched an idea where 4 teams had a sort of mini tournament to decide who their next title challengers were. So it was a tag team match with one person from each team. So it's Danny Burch and Roderick Strong against Fabian Eichner against Raul Mendoza. So a really good match, which Danny Burke and Roderick Strong won. So yeah, then their two teams will face each other now next week to decide for Fandango and Tyler Breeze's next title match. But then also on top of that, there was a very mysterious promo, very Halloween effect. A lot of green on there, and it said someone is going to get their title back. So there's a lot of talk on Twitter. They can't tell if it's male or female yet.
What do you think, Mick?
Well, that's what I'm going to do. So the date at the end of it is the NXT takeover.
Oh.
So it's building up to this. But a few names I've seen thrown around are Ember Moon. Obviously, she was out of action for a long time. Bobby Roode and Bo Dallas were some names I've seen on Twitter this morning.
I think Ember Moon's a very good shout. A very, very good shout. Because she's been injured for so long as well. And she is... This seems like the kind of idea that she would pitch. Like, I could see this. I think Io Shirai versus or Candice LeRae, but I think Io Shirai will go over. Io Shirai versus Ember Moon is something I'd be very excited for.
I want Bobby Roode, but I'm only invested in the 3 minutes of the entrance music, and then I probably will dip off. But that probably says more about my concentration. Chris, just to finish off, NXT UK is back with a bang. It's in BT Studios, your second home, judging by the backgrounds that you choose each week. You watched it. We all watched it. It's great to have it back, isn't it?
Yeah, so last Thursday, obviously, we interviewed Flash Morgan Webster, Mark Andrews. Go check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, it came back with a bang. The match I want to talk about is the main event that night. Ilya Dragunov against Noam Dar. Very, very good. Ilya Dragunov is going to be our interview for next week, so make sure you subscribe. You'll get that next week first before anyone else does. But yeah, an incredible match, back and forth, and then Volta comes out at the end, and I mark out for his music every single time because it's ridiculous. And then tonight is Pippa Niven against Kaylee Ray for the women's title. So again, promises to be a very good show. So check that out on the WWE Network tonight, or if you're in the UK, it's on BT Sport tomorrow night.
Love that. It's back with a bang, and I'm back invested. Right, we move on to Convince Me now. Chris, I'll throw to you because it's a bit of a different one this week.
I think with the news of Road Warrior Animal sadly passing away this week, I think there's no better time to go into the debate to ask who is the best tag team of all time. Now, I will put a caveat on this, and I'm going to say you're not allowed to choose Road Warriors just because I feel like that's too easy an answer. I want us all to go into maybe who means the most to us in terms of what is the best tag team of all time. Now, the rules is very simple. We will all pitch our cases. We will then throw it to you, the Go Home Show audience, and you will decide who is the greatest tag team of all time. So first of all, as I have the power, I'm going to throw to you, Mr. William Brazier. Who is the best tag team of all time?
I got the power.
Chris, I think anyone who can nearly persuade me at the age of 9 or 10 to go out and buy a netted T-shirt has a place in my heart for the rest of my life. So for me, the greatest tag team of all time are the Hardy Boys. My first ever wrestling pay-per-view was the Royal Rumble 2001. And if you remember rightly, the Hardys came out, I think, first and third in that. And they just went at each other. They had a ding-dong battle. And I thought, hang on, who are these guys? Did a bit of a backlog history, and I mean the innovators of the ladder match. I think as a tag team as well, they had so many innovative moves as a tag team, which I think, well, Chris, you can educate me a lot more. Seems to have died out a little bit. We obviously have finishers, but there's not a lot of innovation around what the Hardy Boys used to do. Obviously, the TLC matches are just synonymous with them, and I think they sort of made those matches as well because every highlight just is either them having a massive bump or them jumping off a ladder. They were cool, innovative. I think everyone wanted to be them. Well, maybe everyone, maybe me. That's why I got the netted T-shirt. But just growing up, seeing them with the dyed hair, I know as soon as you say it's cool, it's not cool. But man, they were cool. So for me, yeah, it's the Hardy Boys.
I agree with a lot of what you said there, especially about their moveset and the way they worked together. And it was a lot of using the other person as a way of doing moves. And it's actually quite interesting to see how tag team wrestling's almost evolved back away from that again, in the fact that nowadays a lot of tag team wrestling is a lot like it used to be with like your Arn Andersons and your Rockers and that kind, and the Brain Busters, where rather than being big flashy tag team moves like we saw with the Hardys, it's a lot more of setting them up for strikes and things like that. I think it's very, very interesting. I think it's a very, very good point. Crush, I'll move to you. Who is the greatest tag team of all time?
So, like you, Chris, agree with what Will says, but in my opinion, it is Edge and Christian. A team that when I was growing up, like, they amazed me with what they did. Obviously, they were childhood friends. They became wrestling school classmates, and they went to WWE at a similar time as well. And people forget, like, in the Brood, they were very underrated. Like, with Gangrel, it was a bit dark for how the age I was back then. But at that time in wrestling, they did their role absolutely perfect. And then obviously they go into a legendary tag team career after that. The TLC matches in the late 90s, early 2000s were ridiculous. Like, I don't think they had a bad TLC match. And obviously they were part of the famous TLC match, the first TLC match, which involves all three of our selections. But yeah, that's why I'm going to go for Edge and Christian.
You have, and you've given away my selection there a little bit, and I do think it stands a testament to, in my opinion, this is unarguably the greatest tag team rivalry of all time, and that is between the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and my pick, the Dudley Boys. Now, again, I could repeat a lot of what you two have already said for my pick, because I do think this was how tag team wrestling worked at that time. The reason I go for the Dudley Boys over Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, who are undoubtedly two of the greatest tag teams of all time, there's two reasons for it. One, they were my favourites when I was growing up. And that is my main reason for it, because they were utterly bonkers. Again, we talk about tag team moves and how all three of these pairs kind of really innovated how tag team wrestling was done. In my opinion, the most famous tag team move of all time is the 3D. And, that for me says one thing. The other reason I have for the Dudley Boys being the greatest tag team of all time is that when they were split up, they missed each other so much that no matter what they did, it didn't work. They just did not work as singles guys. Splitting them up was probably the worst decision, or one of the worst decisions that Vince McMahon's ever made. That's by the by point. Edge and Christian as singles wrestlers didn't need Edge and Christian. Edge was incredible. He's the perfect foil for John Cena. Christian, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated singles wrestlers of all time. Matt Hardy is an evergreen, ever creative individual wrestler as we see in AEW at the moment. Jeff Hardy has a claim on being Intercontinental Champion. I think we all agree that Sami Zayn really is the Intercontinental Champion, but that's by the by. Whereas the Dudley Boys, as singles wrestlers, they missed the other half of them so much that it just proved that they were a tag team. Those two they fit together so well, and that for me is why they're the greatest tag team over Edge and Christian, who are undoubtedly incredible tag team, and the Hardy Boys, who, again, as I'm sure Cross will tell us at some point soon, he was there at WrestleMania 33 when they came back. The pop they got was insane, but for me, it will always be the Dudley Boys. But it's not up to us, it's up to you, the listeners, to decide. Get onto us on Twitter, @GoHomeShowPod, or let us know in the YouTube comments who is the greatest tag team of all time.
So, obviously, last week I won the quiz after naming all 12 NXT UK champions inside 25 seconds. And I've never seen someone so shook as Chris was. He thought it was going to be really good. But yeah, so it is our favourite time of the week. It is quiz time. And we base each quiz around a specific topic. For example, it could be hardcore champions, and each person can say how many they can name, and it's bidding a shot at naming them. For example, Chris might go, he can name 5. Will can say 6, and then Chris will go, nah, I'm going for 7, and then Will gives him the chance. The topic is always top secret until now, and I am in charge, so I actually need to change my Zoom background for those watching on YouTube.
Wow.
It's gone from Stephanie McMahon at the BT Sport launch.
How many wrestlers does
The Undertaker.
Oh, wow.
So it's all about the Undertaker today, and obviously he had the streak.
Oh.
Unfortunately, came to an end. So I want you to name as many WrestleMania opponents for Undertaker as you can in 60 seconds. I'll give you 10 seconds to think.
How many is there?
Let me work that out for you now.
And because obviously there is multiple, isn't there?
Yeah, so you don't need to count multiple, it's just individual ones.
I was going to make myself feel better about myself then. I had 4 ready to go.
So there's 24 names on my list. Hopefully I've got it all right. But yeah, you've got 6 seconds to name as many of the 24 as you can. Chris, got to come to you first. How many can you name?
I will start with 7.
Okay, solid. Nice start. Over to you, Will.
I will go 8.
I'll take 9.
I will go 10.
Ooh, getting taken, Chris.
24 in total, did you say?
24 in total, and you both can't name half of them.
All right, I'll go 11.
Okay, well, can you name half of Undertaker's WrestleMania opponents?
I'll go 12.
Can you name one every 5 seconds? That is the question.
See, I thought I had it with the name.
You're up. You can do go for 12.
Then, Will. So we have Mr. William Brazier going for 12 Undertaker opponents, so half the Undertaker's opponents at WrestleMania in 60 seconds. Will, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, go.
Bray Wyatt, John Cena, CM Punk.
Yep.
Shawn Michaels, Triple H.
Yep.
Yokozuna, Sid Vicious.
Oh.
A-Train, Big Show.
Yep.
Oh, now we're struggling.
So you've got 4 to go, and you've got 40
Ric
seconds.
Flair.
Yep.
Oh, I'm struggling there, boys.
So you've got 9
Brock Lesnar.
seconds. Yep.
Lesnar. Oh, God, everything's just
2
evaporated.
to go in 20 seconds.
Everything's just evaporated quickly. Bray Wyatt. Lesnar. Shawn Michaels. Triple H. Oh, no. Shawn Michaels. Triple H. Oh, no, I can't.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time
Luke
is
Harper.
up. Unlucky. So you managed to name 10. Obviously, Yokozuna was incorrect.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're going to start backwards. So starting in 1991, we had Jimmy Snuka, then Jake Roberts, Giant Gonzalez, King Kong Bundy, Diesel, Psycho Sid, Kane, Big Boss Man,
Kane!
Triple H, Ric Flair, A-Train and Big Show, and then Kane again, Randy
Have we got
Orton.
fucking A-Train and not fucking Kane?
So we had Randy Orton, then Mark Henry, Batista, Edge, Shawn Michaels back-to-back, then Triple H back-to-back, CM Punk. Then we had Brock Lesnar, where the streak ended, Bray Wyatt, Shane McMahon, Roman Reigns, John Cena, and then one that you forgot. I don't know how you forgot because it was literally in April, AJ Styles.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That was more of a film than anything else.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Will doesn't win. So
I mean, I win by default.
So
disqualification.
I win by default.
Do you really want to win by default? It's a bit.
Yeah.
Am I the first?
Okay.
Am I the first loser?
Do I look like the kind of person that will not accept winning by default?
Chris is Christian in that Randy Orton feud. He just spat in my face and he's taking the time. Am I the first loser?
You are the first loser. This is my fear. The whole time, the reason I keep lowballing is I don't want to be the first to lose.
That is actually disgraceful. I don't know about missing around. I might have to miss a podcast.
Chris will be the host of the quiz next week.
It is that time once again for Wrestling Room 101. The rules for this are very simple. Each week, one of us will bring a topic to the table that they would like to see gone from wrestling forever. They will go head-to-head with another member of the podcast, and a third member will decide whether or not it goes into Room 101 or if it has to live in wrestling forever. Now, this week, because we are a man down, we have changed the rules up slightly. This week, I will be presenting a topic, mainly because I've been sat on it for about 3 weeks, and I finally get to do it. This week, I will be going head-to-head with Crush, and our very own hostess with the mostest, Will Brazier, will be judging. Now, the topic that I am bringing to Room 101 this week, I admit, I think is a bit of a tap-in. I think it's a gimme. I think it's a 6-inch putt for the win on the 18th green. I am going to try and put into Room 101 the current and ridiculous high spot arms race that is currently happening within wrestling. So now the reason that this came to mind was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, at All Out, the Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara match, the Broken Rules match, which got to a finish, but realistically the match should have ended after Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara fell off a 10-foot platform, 15-foot platform. The idea was to go through 2 tables and land on the concrete. They kind of skimmed the table. Matt Hardy was allegedly concussed. He certainly wasn't in a good way. So for me, personally, I believe this is one of the bigger issues within wrestling. Now, I don't have an issue with high spots. I think there is a time and a place for high spots. And this was a heated feud. So this was a time and place where you could have a high spot. My issue with this is this spot happened realistically within 5 minutes of the match. Like, this was the opening spot for the match. And it was legitimately falling 10, 15 feet onto concrete. If this was the finish of the match after 20, 25 minutes, I could understand the risk within it. But this just felt like gratuitous nonsense for the sake of trying to be cool and edgy. We see it more and more often, and we see it as well, especially in matches that aren't that important, where you see it in indie matches and guys are jumping off balconies and they're getting paid 20 quid to do it. I genuinely believe this is actually a real issue within wrestling. I think the idea of having high spots and having dangerous spots is fine, but they should be the exclamation point at the end of a match, not just a replacement for an arm drag, essentially.
I mean, it's going to be the easiest room 101 ever, because I agree.
That's fine. I think we do this all the time. We find topics and we find reasons to argue against them. For me, this can get in the bin.
As you point out, like, they try and do so much, like the falling off the balconies, like just picking up an example I've seen in British wrestling over the past few years, like I obviously don't work over anymore, he's in Japan, but Will Ospreay. So like, Will is literally one of the most craziest, talented wrestlers you'll ever meet. Like, his spots are incredible, but he was like jumping off balconies, he was doing like all this mad stuff. And like you say, it's high risk for low reward because it just gets that huge pop, but then doesn't really add much else, if you get what I mean.
I almost think as well, it's a bit like, in our realm of like sports media, it's like who can say the maddest opinion, even if they don't think it's correct. So like, this is almost like doing the maddest high spot, even if it's not really going to add anything to the match.
I think especially in this example as well, like we are with everything going on with the pandemic and everything, we're in the kind of the realm of the cinematic match. Or in fact, not even cinematic matches. We're in the realm of edits and cuts and stops. So if you want to do a big, mad high spot, which we saw in the Stadium Stampede, the finish was Sammy Guevara again taking a one-winged angel off of, I think it was a 20-foot platform, like within the stadium onto whatever was below him. That was a stop. They set it up. They got it going. They took the time to get it right, and they did it. This match was just meant to be done as a street fight, essentially. It was being done as a regular street fight. So this spot didn't need to happen because they could have, because there was very little audience, and it was a backstage segment anyway, so they could have stopped and done it properly. It felt very, like we said, it felt like screaming a mad opinion because you want attention, not because it made sense either within the match or in the fact just within the realms of responsible wrestling. I
think the best point to that as well, I just finished watching WWE Untold with John Cena and Edge, and you think the end of that TLC match was literally like nearly the end of the feud, and it ended with that such high spot, and it was almost the perfect end.
And there are very good examples of when you can do high spots well, and when they make sense, and when they're done properly. But I think there is a real issue at the moment of wrestlers doing nonsense things for the sake of doing nonsense things, and that's how they think they're going to get over. Whereas realistically, as we saw in this case, it just made for very uncomfortable viewing and wasn't an enjoyable thing to see.
No, I think so. Well, I am the judge, but there's nothing really to judge because we've all agreed. Maybe that's why we are the three-man band, because we just get on so famously well. And it's going to have a tough time getting back into this stable, let me tell you. So going into Wrestling Room 101 is dangerous, nonsense, high spots. Does that sound good, Chris?
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. I'm glad we can all move on with our lives now.
Obviously, we've debated that point long and hard there, but let us know on our Twitter, or if you're watching on YouTube, get in the comments down below. Let us know what you think as well. Are we turning into a bunch of Karens, or are we have we got a spot on point there? Let us know down below. Clash of Champions is just a matter of days away, so it's time to stock up on your drinks for watching at home or in the Thunderdome. And how better to enjoy watching along than with the company of some fresh and delicious beers from all over the globe. There's no need to worry about heading to the shops to stock up. Beer 52 will bring the beer to you. They're offering a free case of 8 craft beers, sourced and curated from the best brewers on the planet. All you need to do is go to beer52.com/the Go Home Show and just cover the $5.95 for postage. Each case is delivered direct to your doorstep, so no need to leave the house. Looking to stock up? Now's your chance. Beer 52 is the world's most popular craft beer discovery club with over 150,000 members that they send a brand new case to every month. Each month's case has a different theme. Past themes have included New Zealand, South Africa, Korea, or all over the USA and Europe. So that's beer52.com. That's the word beer, then the numbers 52.com/the Go Home Show for free beers.
We promised you we'd bring you a WWE champion in the near future, and today is the day that we deliver on that promise. We are delighted to say that the reigning, defending, undisputed, 24/7 champion, RTruth, took time out of his busy schedule to chat with us, with our very own Crusher, about his 39th title reign, Brock Lesnar, and much, much more. Crush, over to you.
Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, a man who is a 2-time US champion, a 1-time tag team champion, and 39-time and current 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, I95 champion, RTruth. What's up?
Michael, what's up? Dog, I like that introduction, dog. I might have to bring you along with me to give me that formal introduction when I have a match. But I don't need no matches right now, man. When I have a match, people are trying to take my baby from me. We ain't trying to hear that right now.
No, we don't want that, but I'll have to take it. It took me a while to rehearse it, but I got it in the end. We'll start with the 24/7 title straight away. How have you found that run? Because obviously it's been a long time. How have you found the 24/7 title run?
I love it. I love it, man. This 24/7 championship has put me in Forbes magazine. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's not a wrestling magazine. So it's like this 24/7 is, it's like a spider web, man. It's reaching and connecting with all walks of celebrities, man, all walks of entertainment. I love it.
And what's the sort of creative process behind it? Is it sort of you pitching ideas or them giving you ideas, amending it, etc.?
It's both. It's both, man. I'm coming up with ideas with like the wedding, the golf course. We both just spitball and we see what sticks.
And picking up on 2 points you mentioned there, there's been a lot of locations for title changes involving yourself. We've got the golf course, airplanes, wedding, a hotel room, a waiting room. You're a doctor in a talent relations meeting.
Yes.
Where? What's been your favourite and why?
Michael, I get asked that a lot, man, and I can't pick one favorite. It's almost like eating Lay's potato chips. You can't just pick one. You're going to keep eating and eating. You know what I'm saying? I put myself and throw myself into this work, man, into like entertaining my fans, putting them on that roller coaster, that emotional roller coaster, man. So it's like, it's hard for me to pick one great moment because every one that I've done, I've enjoyed, and the numbers don't lie.
And I suppose that is the best thing about it. You're entertaining fans, giving fans great enjoyment from it. Well, one segment that I particularly enjoyed, because it involves someone who we've interviewed recently and is from over here in England, is Drake Maverick. What was it like working with him, obviously, the whole wedding angle?
I would say that among all the other superstars, Drake Maverick was the one that, and I told him, I said, dude, that's part of this business, is to like see it, reach for it, grab it, hold on, and ride. And once the 24/7 championship came into effect, man, Drake was the first one that like, you know what, I want to be a part of this. And he was coming up, he was pitching ideas, and he's also entertaining. And you have to have that entertainment aspect of wrestling to be a wrestler in this business. And I think Drake Maverick has that.
And just looking at particularly the honeymoon aspect, who came up with that?
That was my idea. Yeah, I wanted the honeymoon. Yes, we would sit around and just throw ideas out, man. And the instant someone laughed at an idea, we're doing that.
And obviously, earlier this year, which again seems a long time ago because it's been such a long year, you made every person in the world laugh with a segment and made the person laugh, which is very hard to do, Mr. Brock Lesnar. Can you just talk about how that came about? Because obviously Brock, he's very serious, but you had him in stitches with the Paul Heyman line in the Royal Rumble.
I remember, man, when we were talking about it, when they gave me my promo, and they was like, well, we kind of don't want you to go on the promo. We want you to do your thing and make Brock laugh. I said, what? They're like, yeah, we all kind of got a bet that some say you can't, some say you can. We're going to see if you can make Brock laugh. So we're not going to tell Brock what you're going to say. I said, man, I think the Beast needs to know what I'm going to say before I get out. He's like, bro, come on, we got to help us with this bet. And that was the bet, man, to get Brock to laugh. And I don't know if you can watch that back and tell. I knew Brock was going to laugh when the build-up was coming, and I could tell he was like, okay, where is he going with this? Where is he going with this? I knew I had him once I saw the eye connection, and he looked at me where I was going with it. And when Brock laughed, I did all I could to not laugh with him because the whole moment was there.
Yeah.
Paul was there with the facial expression. Brock was there laughing. I was there with the delivery of what I wanted to say, and it was just there. And I did all I could, man, to hold it in. And that was probably like one of my most achievable conquering moment right there, I felt like. And when we got to the back, Brock was still laughing. And he was like, dude, we got to do something together. I don't know how we got to do it, but we have to do something together. It has to work. And, bro, I'll do anything with Brock. And the combination just worked. It just worked.
Was there any further talk of that happening of you versus Brock before the whole pandemic?
There's something me and Brock can do together, man. It's there. I don't know if Brock going to be my bodyguard or he come debo the 24/7, 48/7 championship from me. There's something there, you know what I'm saying? And I think the fans, our dedicated fans, the universe, will appreciate that.
Remember, you can watch the full interview on our YouTube, SPORF Wrestling, or listen on all good podcasting apps. Let us know on Twitter at GoHomeShowPod who you'd like to see us interview next. And now we'll move on to the retro recap. Michael, over to you.
Yes, obviously we've got Clash of Champions on Sunday. This is going to be the 5th iteration of it, I believe. So we're throwing it back to 2016, the first Clash of Champions. Obviously there was Night of Champions before that, but then this was the first one. So we had a lot of good matches. So I'm just going to quickly run through them before we focus on one of them that me and Chris have been debating about the past couple of days. So we started with New Day. They beat Gallows and Anderson. TJ Perkins beat Brian Kendrick. Jericho beat Zayn. Charlotte retained her title against Sasha and Bayley. Roman Reigns won the US title from Rusev, now Miro, and Kevin Owens beat Rollins. But the match we're going to focus on is Cesaro against Sheamus in their best of 7 series. So obviously it was 3-3 going into this pay-per-view, but then this match ended in a no contest. But this was so pivotal in both of their careers as they formed a tag team on the back of it. So on the next night on Raw, they were put together by Mick Foley, and they had to beat local athletes. Then they started a feud with the New Day, and I think they lost on the Raw, and then they went on to Hell in a Cell against them, and then they won by disqualification, but obviously the belts don't change hands. And then the next month, it was Survivor Series, Team Raw versus Team Smackdown. Cesaro and Sheamus were the last 2 survivors, showing that they can start to work together, and they won the match for Team Raw. Then we go on to the infamous Bar Brawl, which Chris, I know you want to touch on shortly, which followed on at Roadblock. They won the titles from New Day. Unfortunately, then they lost them at the Royal Rumble pre-show against Gallows Anderson. They failed to win them back in the 4-way tag at WrestleMania, which, of course, I was at when the Hardy Boys came back and won the titles. But that next night on Raw, I've never heard a crowd so loud. Actually, I have heard a crowd so loud because Roman Reigns got booed out of that building without saying barely anything. But the part after their match where everyone's going mad, going, duh, 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 Sheamus and Cesaro, was just simply incredible. But Chris, I know you wanted to talk about the formation of this tag team.
Yeah, I think this is certainly in kind of modern times. This is probably the best formation of a tag team that we've seen in a long, long time. In that we see it a lot at the moment where kind of 2 singles wrestlers get thrown together. For example, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and they either have instant success or they don't. Whereas this actually felt very organic, especially when it was born out of a best of 7 series that kind of came from nowhere. And we were I think the general consensus, certainly at the start of it, was, oh, they've got nothing for these 2 very, very talented athletes. Let's just throw them in a best of 7, and that's their booking sorted until we need to worry about it. Whereas actually it really beautifully brought together the idea that obviously they were enemies, and then they kind of had that mutual respect, and then it turned out they could work well. And I think the bar brawl that Crush touched on actually was one of the better kind of backstage vignette fight scenes, or not fight scenes, but fight moments, because it had such a good purpose. Like, they built up to start off with, I think the line was, I think Sheamus said to Cesaro, "Oh, we'll always have Survivor Series," or something like that. And there was that kind of moment of mutual respect, but we don't really want to be working together, but we kind of respect each other now, all this kind of, and they got into this fight, and you could see this tag team, an actual genuine tag team, two people who had each other's back, who knew how each other worked, who had that chemistry formed together. And it was a brilliant way at the time of turning Sheamus face, because he'd always kind of classically been a heel. And then down the line, after the feud with the Hardy Boys, very naturally turning Cesaro heel to create this heel team. And they work it so beautifully. And it still resonates today with how they're working Cesaro and Nakamura. It naturally feels right because of all the groundwork that was built with Sheamus and Cesaro in the bar. I honestly think this is one of the better things WWE have done in the past 10 years or so.
Anything to add, Will?
I just remember being really disappointed when the match at Clash of Champions came to a no DQ, because, like Chris said, it sort of spawned out of having nothing for them to do. But then I got really into it, and then I was like, they can't end it on a no DQ. And then, yeah, Mick Foley coming out the next night, putting them together. And, I mean, who'd have thought it would have gone all the way to have them matching jackets? Didn't they have kilts at one point as well?
Yeah, so I remember being at the Raw in Manchester, Will. Do you remember when the next night AJ won the title, but on that Raw, I was Raw, and they came out in Liverpool kits.
Yes.
And they were absolutely booed out of anything. Obviously, Cesaro floats between teams. He's been wearing City shirts in the past, but obviously Sheamus is a huge Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got him in the Liverpool shirts, and yeah, it was very good.
He sang "You'll Never Walk Alone," didn't he, in the Manchester Arena?
Yeah.
And that is just fantastic.
I think it's also worth remembering in this match at Clash of Champions, Cesaro came up with probably the dumbest idea for a move I've ever seen. And I remember watching an interview about this. So there's a very famous clip. He goes for a suicide dive and lands just straight down on his head. Now, in an interview, I think they did like a watch along or something like that. They did an interview about the match, and they were saying that Cesaro had this idea that he was going to be the guy that did suicide dives, which is a very common move now, but he was going to be the guy that did it with no hands. So he launches himself through the ropes with his hands clasped to his side, and then is surprised when he comes down straight down on top of his head. I remember watching, and I think actually, again, it's a very, very dumb thing to do. It did build into the having a no contest winner, because it kind of it worked the crowd in that it was real. He did nearly kill himself. So it was very fortunate that he was all right. He is ridiculously strong, and he's just built up. If anyone's going to take that kind of punishment, it will be Cesaro. So we're all very thankful he's fine. It worked in the match, but it might have been the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
You're not tempted to do no hand suicide dives, Chris, in the ring?
If you ever see me do a dive full stop, you can give me so much shit. Like, who's going to catch me? Who's going to say, yeah, it's all right, I got you? Have actually done.
What about if you and Ryan broke up, and then there was this huge rivalry between you two?
If me and Ryan break up, that's not leaving the ring. It's too exhausting getting in and out. We're just going to beat each other up for 5 minutes and then go home. Anyway, that'll do it for this week, I think, boys. It has been a pleasure. As we have said, we are the three-man band. Elliot is our hornswoggle when he finally returns off annual leave. But we bring it back to you, the audience. Who is the best tag team of all time? Is it the Hardy Boys? Is it Edge and Christian? Or is it the right answer in the Dudley Boys? Could you have beaten me in the quiz? Because I did win, regardless of whether it's by count out or not. I am the quiz champion for this week. Could you have named more of the Undertaker's WrestleMania opponents? Should the ridiculous high spots arm race go into Room 101? And who would you like to see us interview in upcoming episodes? Like we said, very excited for next week. We have Ilya Dragunov on the show, the standout star of the returning NXT UK. If you've not seen the Noam Dar Ilya Dragunov match, I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really good. It's Noam Dar back at his best as well. Check it out if you get a chance. We've also teamed up with Euroshop for a prize bundle worth over 100 English pounds. Included is a Brahma Bull mini title, a Drew McIntyre shirt, a Bailey shirt, and an Undisputed Era water bottle. Get it while you can before Kyle O'Reilly gets kicked out. All you have to do is go onto Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, chuck your Twitter handle in the review, and we will draw that competition very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app so you are the first to know when a new episode launches. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast, as we've said, be sure to leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to check out the full RTruth interview with our very own Crusher on the SPORF Wrestling YouTube. That is it from us. We'll see you next week. Now let's go home.